Have you ever sat next to someone you love and felt completely invisible? I never actually wrote the letters. I composed them in my head, usually while folding your socks, or staring out the kitchen window while the kettle whined behind me. I had so many versions, angry ones, aching ones, quiet ones, that simply whispered, "Please, notice me again." But I never put pen to paper, maybe because I knew you wouldn't read them. Or maybe because once I admitted how lonely I was, it would become too real to bear. We still sleep in the same bed. We still share dinner most nights, and you still ask how my day was out of habit, not interest. You're kind. You haven't done anything cruel or loud or unforgivable. And that's almost worse, because what do you do when the person you love fades into someone you can no longer reach, but also can't leave? This is not a letter to blame you. It's a letter to remember me, to remember us, before we became this. So I'll read them now, the letters I never sent. Not because I want to hurt you, but because I need to stop hurting alone. Letter 1. The first shift, I don't remember the exact day you stopped looking at me, but I remember the moment I noticed. You were sitting at the table reading something on your phone. I had just come home from the hairdresser. Nothing drastic, just a few layers and some warmth added to the color, trying to look like the woman I used to be. I stood in the kitchen, keys still in hand, expecting you to look up and smile, maybe even say, "Hey, you look nice." But you didn't. You kept scrolling. You mumbled something about dinner, and I stood there suddenly aware of how quiet the room was, how invisible I felt. That's the first letter I wrote in my head. Dear you, I'm still here, but you don't see me anymore, not really, and I'm not sure when you stopped. Letter 2. The waiting years. There was a time I believed it was just a phase. Maybe work was overwhelming, maybe we were both tired. We were raising kids, paying bills, managing chaos. I told myself we'd find each other again once things slowed down. So I waited. I made your favorite meals. I touched your hand at the grocery store. I bought new nightgowns I thought might spark something. You were always polite, always thankful. But there was a wall, not made of cruelty, just distance, quiet, indifference wrapped in routine. One night I stood in front of the mirror in our bedroom while you were in the shower. I studied the lines around my eyes, the way gravity had touched me. I remember whispering to my reflection, maybe you'd see me if I looked different, younger, brighter, less tired. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about that. It wasn't my body. It was our attention, or lack of it. Letter 3. Conversations that never happened. We had so many almost conversations, moments when I almost asked, "Are you happy with me, or do you miss us the way we used to be?" But I swallowed them down because I was afraid. Afraid of what you'd say, afraid of what you wouldn't. I remember one night we were sitting on the couch and you were watching something. I was curled up beside you, pretending to be interested. My hand was on your knee. You didn't move away, but you didn't touch me back either. I wanted to say, "Do you even know I'm touching you?" But I didn't. I just smiled and watched the screen. That's when the letters started piling up inside me. All the words I never spoke, because I didn't want to break what was left of us. Letter 4. The ache of small things. I miss the small things, the way you used to hold my face when we kissed, the way you used to listen, not just hear me, but really listen, like I was the most important sound in the room. I miss laughter that didn't feel forced. I miss spontaneity. I miss the part of myself that came alive when you looked at me like I mattered. Now our days are filled with weather talk and logistics. Did you pay that bill? What time is your doctor's appointment? We operate like coworkers in a shared life project. Efficient, predictable, muted. I know I've changed too. I'm not pretending I'm the same woman you married. But love isn't about staying unchanged. It's about choosing each other again and again as we evolve. When did we stop choosing? Letter 5. The secret grief? There's a strange kind of mourning when the person you share your life with becomes emotionally unavailable. You feel like a widow, but he's still alive, brushing his teeth beside you, passing the salt, sitting in the car on the way to the grocery store. That grief has no funeral, no sympathy cards, only silence. I grieve for us, quietly, alone, because saying it out loud would feel like betrayal. And yet staying silent feels like betrayal too of myself. I wonder, do you feel it too? Do you ever look at me when I'm not watching and wonder what happened to the woman you used to love? Because I do. I wonder about you all the time. Letter 6. The night I almost said it. I came close to speaking the truth once. It was late. You were half asleep, and I had just come back from the kitchen where I'd stood with a glass of water gripping the counter, as if it could anchor me to the version of our life I was trying to hold together. I climbed into bed, turned to you in the dark, and whispered, "Are you happy with me?" You didn't answer. Maybe you were already asleep, or maybe you heard and didn't know what to say. I lay there in the dark, feeling the space between us stretch like a quiet ocean. My body was only inches from yours, but emotionally I felt like I was floating alone in cold, open water. I didn't ask again. I told myself I imagined it, that maybe I was just tired or hormonal or overthinking, but deep down I knew the silence meant something. Letter 7. The little lies we told ourselves. We told ourselves we were fine, that every couple goes through seasons, that routine is normal, that comfort is love. And for a while I clung to that. I called it stability, even as I wilted from neglect. But there's a difference between peaceful and numb, between stable and disconnected, between enduring and loving. I don't think we noticed when we crossed that line. It didn't happen in a single moment. It was gradual, like falling asleep in a room that slowly runs out of air. We still say love you before bed, out of habit mostly, like brushing teeth. It's not that I think you don't love me in some way, but I wonder if you even see me anymore, or if you just see the role I play, wife, partner, planner of meals, keeper of the calendar. And I'm tired of performing a life I no longer feel part of. Letter 8. I started talking to myself. Since I couldn't talk to you, I began talking to myself. Not out loud, at least not often, but in the quiet moments I'd narrate things in my head. I'd say what I wish I could say to you, practicing for a conversation I never found the courage to have. I'm lonely. I need more from you than logistics and politeness. Look at me, not past me, not through me, at me. I even imagined you listening, responding, saying something that would make it all feel worth staying for. But you never said those things, and I never asked you to. And now it feels like I've been having a relationship with a version of you that only lives in my head. Sometimes I miss that version more than I miss you. Letter 9. When I considered leaving, yes. There were moments I thought about leaving. I'd imagine myself packing a small bag, getting in the car driving until I ran out of gas or tears. I'd imagine renting a tiny apartment somewhere coastal or quiet. I'd drink wine on the balcony, I'd write, I'd rediscover my name, but I never left. Because we built a life. Because I didn't want to hurt you. Because I'm not sure I'd know how to start over. Because I wasn't sure if leaving would fix the loneliness or just change its scenery. And sometimes I wonder, is staying because it's easier than leaving the same thing as staying for love? Letter 10, I watched myself fade. I used to be vibrant. I used to sing in the kitchen. I used to dress up for no reason. I used to laugh so hard I cried. But over time, I began shrinking. I stopped bringing up deep topics because they made you uncomfortable. I stopped dressing up because no one noticed anymore. I stopped touching you unless you touched me first. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, I disappeared inside a life that looks lovely from the outside. Even my friends think we're perfect. You're lucky, they say. And I nod, smile, and go home to a house filled with soft silence. There is no villain here, no betrayal, no scandal, just erosion, just two people, slowly forgetting how to see each other. And maybe the saddest part is this. If you read these letters, I don't know if they'd surprise you, or if you'd even recognize that they were about us. Letter 11. I tried to become someone you'd see again. For a time, I tried to become someone you might notice again. I took long walks to clear my head and lose a few pounds. I bought books on marriage intimacy, rekindling desire after 50. I subscribed to podcasts that promised emotional reconnection. I wore red lipstick again, not for me, not for the mirror, but in the desperate hope that you might say something, anything. But you didn't. You said I looked nice once, then asked if we had milk. I started to feel like I was chasing someone who wasn't trying to be found. And that made me feel foolish, undignified. Because the truth is, I wanted you to want me again. Not sexually, though that too, but emotionally. I wanted you to want to know, me to be curious about what I was thinking, how I was feeling, what was quietly unraveling inside me. I didn't need you to fix anything. I just needed you to look at me like you used to, like I mattered. Letter 12. I think you loved me best in the beginning. You did love me once, I know that. I remember how your eyes softened when you looked at me, how you used to touch the small of my back like it meant something, how you used to call just to hear my voice. And I held on to that version of you like a lighthouse during storms I couldn't explain. But maybe you loved me best when I was filled with possibility, not routine. When I hadn't yet grayed at the temples or tired in my bones. When I still laughed easily before life and time and caregiving wore parts of me down. Maybe it's not fair to say that. Maybe I've changed too. Maybe I stopped reaching out because I got tired of not being reached for. Maybe we both retreated at the same time and just never came back. But I still wonder, did we lose something or just let it go quietly? Thinking we could find it again later. And now it's later, much later. Letter 13. The silence between us speaks louder than we do. The silence between us isn't cruel. It's not filled with yelling or door slamming or harsh words. It's polite, it's soft, it's tidy. And that's what makes it so unbearable. Because there's no fight to fix, no clear wound to tend, just the slow, low ache of being emotionally orphaned by the person you still share a dinner table with. I once read that loneliness isn't being alone, it's being unheard, unwitnessed. And I've never felt lonelier than sitting 2 feet from you, trying to start a conversation and watching your eyes flicker toward your phone again and again. Not out of malice, just habit. Sometimes I want to scream, talk to me like you used to, but I don't. Because I've forgotten how to demand something that I no longer believe is mine. Letter 14, I still hold hope in quiet corners. Despite all of this, I haven't given up entirely. I wouldn't be writing these letters if I had. There's still a sliver of me, a quiet, stubborn part, that believes something soft between us still lives buried under the chores and distractions and years. That maybe one day you'll turn to me, really turn and ask something simple, like, "Are you okay?" and wait. Actually wait for the real answer. That you'll hear me again, not just the sound of my voice, but the meaning behind it. I don't need grand gestures. I just need presence. A look that lingers, a hand that reaches, a silence that listens instead of dismisses. I still believe two people can come back from the edge of disconnect if one of them is brave enough to speak the truth. So maybe that's what this is, my bravery, even if you never hear it. Letter 15. If you're still listening. If you're still listening, if any part of you can hear me, even if it's late, even if you don't know what to say, I want you to know this. I don't hate you. I'm not angry in the way you might think. I've felt all the things: resentment, grief, frustration, but underneath it all is love. Quiet, bruised, but still love. You were my chosen person, my beginning, and I don't want our ending to be silence. Maybe you don't know how to talk about this. Maybe you're scared too. Maybe you feel invisible in ways I can't see. If that's true, maybe we can find each other in the dark, one word at a time. No big speeches, no pressure, just truth. Because I miss us, I miss me. And I think we still have a chance if we're willing to stop pretending that silence is safer than truth. If you've made it this far, maybe some of these letters felt like yours too. Maybe you've written similar ones in your head while driving, doing dishes, or lying awake, beside someone who once made your heart race. Maybe you've whispered words into the dark, hoping they'd echo back with understanding. And maybe, like me, you never sent them. I don't know what will happen next. I don't know if I'll ever say these things out loud to him. But I do know this: speaking them here, into this quiet space, matters. Sometimes we need to give voice to our pain, not to hurt anyone, but to stop hurting in secret. Sometimes just being honest with ourselves is the bravest kind of love there is. So to the man I still live beside, but sometimes feel miles away from, if you ever find these words, know that they came from a place of hope, not hate. From a desire not to leave, but to find our way back. Because I miss being seen, and I miss seeing you. And to every woman listening, if these words echoed something inside you, you're not invisible, you're not alone. And your story matters, even the parts you haven't told anyone yet. If this episode touched something in you, I hope you'll share it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you'd like to keep walking with us through these quiet, powerful stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave a gentle comment or simply say "me too." Sometimes that's all we need to feel a little less alone. Until next time, be soft with yourself. You've carried more than anyone knows.